Let's take a look at deploying the Solace Schema Registry inside of Docker or Podman. Organizations often look to a schema registry to provide a central repository for managing and storing their schemas, enabling a number of important capabilities. First is data consistency, ensuring that all of the producers and the consumers can agree on data formats for events. Second is interoperability, allowing different systems to communicate effectively without prior knowledge of the data format that will be exchanged. Third is schema evolution, enabling versioning and compatibility checking for schemas, especially as they grow and change over time. Fourth is data governance by providing a centralized schema management location for better controlling and auditing of schemas and usage. In order to get started with the schema registry from Solace, we're going to have to go and download it. You can find it in your product access portal by going to Schema Registry, drilling in on the Solace Schema Registry item here. Ignore the SARE days for now, we'll come back to those. Right now we're at 1.0.0 GA, but you'll select the latest version or the version that you want to install, current, and actually grab this tar zip here of the file and install it in the location where you would like it. I had previously downloaded this file already, so I'll change over to my terminal where we have it stored. The first thing that we're going to want to do is actually unzip and untar this download that we just had. So I'll go ahead and paste the command for that here. It's tar-xzf schema registry, whichever version you have. This will create a new directory and put all of the contents inside of there, essentially extracting what we have. If we change into this new directory, we will see that we have a number of different folders, some Helm chart content, some Docker content, and a README if we wanted to see the instructions and what's contained inside of here. The next step is that we actually have to extract the different images and get them into Docker. For this, I'm using Docker, but it would be the same or very similar if you're using Podman. So we're going to go through the images in the image folder, find any one that ends in tar.gz, and load it into Docker. As you can see, we have successfully loaded 3 images. We're almost done with the setup commands here for the images. The last thing that we want to do is just run a number of Docker tag commands. These essentially just change from whatever version we have installed to latest so that the Docker Compose files can find all of these different images. So I'll run that really quick, and we have all of the images now inside of Docker that we need to run the schema registry. The next step is to change into the compose-files directory. Inside of here, we have another tar-zip file. So we're going to untar and unzip tar-xzf. Solace Schema Registry, dist. Okay, so inside of here we have a number of compose files. We'll use these to actually spin up our schema registry locally, and then go ahead and interact with the schema registry. Standing this up is relatively straightforward, but because we have support for a number of different deployment scenarios, you will have to run a couple of different compose files in this Docker compose command. So we're essentially going to call out all those files and then say up. I removed the -d flag there so that we can just see what happens on screen. And the logs will actually go directly to screen here. Once this successfully starts up, we can go back to our web browser, navigate to localhost 8888, and we'll get thrown into a login screen for the schema registry. The default username and password are sr-developer for the username and DevPassword with a capital P for the password. Once you get in through that login screen, you'll be able to do things like create artifacts, browse your existing artifacts, and apply global rules. We could go ahead and create an artifact here like Solace samples JSON. Note this is the topic address that you're going to publish this particular schema on. We can paste in a schema here. Well, this is asking for metadata. We can include metadata or we could skip it. We can actually provide the schema that we want, in this case, a JSON schema. Next, we can provide metadata about that particular version of the content, or we can skip it. And we will end up in here actually looking at our particular schema that we just created. Here we can do things like enable the validity rule, compatibility rules, and integrity rules. We could view the different versions of the schema. We only have one right now, but we could create multiple and probably will in the future. And we could look at branches for a particular schema, something like a dev branch or a testing branch for a particular schema. All in all, it's relatively straightforward to set up a local version of the schema registry. You can check out some of our other videos on the Solace Schema Registry to find out how to set it up with Kubernetes, how to use our serializers and deserializers, and to further explore why you might want to use a schema registry.